Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com. Hello and welcome to Voices from the Mausoleum. You may notice something different. Angel is not here for this episode, but I am here in her place. As of recording this, I mean, if everyone I'm sure knows that she's been very candid, keeping everyone updated. She is out recovering from surgery, but as of recording today, the procedure went very well. She is recovering. She's in her room right now, so she's not quite home yet, but probably by the time this goes up, she'll be home and resting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good because, I'm sure like you, I was getting updates and I was like, like I got the first update of she's going down for surgery now, and then it was like hours and hours. I'm like, wow, it's taken a long time. But yeah, she's all good and recovered. Well,
Yeah.
recovering.
Yes. So, everyone just send her your love. I know she'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for today's remake that we are diving into is the Crazies. Now, I did not get a chance, like I wanted to watch the original. Are you really familiar with the original?
I am, and this is one of the rare occasions where a remake is not just as good as, it is infinitely better than the original. I love this remake. The original is very much more focused on the political side of it, and it's got a much bigger cast that dives into lots of different situations. And if I'm honest, you don't really get any connection with any cast member. So when someone dies, you're kind of like, oh well. But in this, there's a group of characters that you actually care about and you're invested in, and that's something that's missing from the original.
Yeah.
Which this is a great remake for me. What did you think of it? Is it a first watch for you?
This was not a first watch, but it had been in a long time sort of watch. I probably saw this. I don't think I saw it in theaters, but definitely when it first hit, like DVD, or it was on one of the channels, because we didn't really have a lot of streaming services at this point, right? This was what, 2010.
Yeah.
So like Netflix really was just starting. I think maybe I got the DVD from Netflix.
Yeah.
Like when they were doing the DVD deliveries.
That was a thing. Oh wow. How many people remember that? Let us know in the comments.
Well, that was a blast. I think I had 2 at a time. I think that was the sweet spot, and I was just banging them out.
Yeah, because it was the demise of Blockbuster Video, followed by Netflix posting DVDs out to you, so you didn't have to go to the store anymore, and then streaming was born. And now we're at a point where we're all going, I really miss Blockbuster. Do you remember we used to go and pick a video? That was so much fun.
I do, man. I feel like with physical media sort of on the outs, at least in terms of like the big retailers, I think little niche shops will start popping up.
I hope so.
Yeah, because I think it's an opportunity for the smaller businesses.
Yeah, 100%. If someone opened up a shop renting out DVDs and even VHS, I would go and I would quite happily pay to rent stuff out that I can get on streaming services just to give my kids the experience of, oh, this is great. Today we're going to go to the video store and you're going to spend an hour looking at covers, having no idea what the movie's about, and you have to pick one and we're going to take it home and watch it. My kids will never experience that, which is sad.
Maybe one day. You never know what comes back in style. But that's sort of what this movie reminds me of, is sort of the Netflix birth and then sort of the demise of Blockbuster, because I think that's definitely how I saw this. But all that tangent to say, and Lord knows Angel gets on me for tangents. No, we both go into tangents, but I enjoy this a lot. I think I forgot how good it was.
Yeah, and I think watching it this time, watching it post-pandemic, I look at this through a very different lens. Like when the government descend on the town and they're temperature checking everyone, and and I'm sort of going, oh, this is very, very familiar. Had COVID gone another way, maybe this is where it would have ended up. It's like even down to like the where they're temperature checking people coming through, that was very
Mhm.
much reminded me of the COVID testing centers that we used, the drive-through ones where
Yeah,
you'd drive through and they'd shove the thing up your nose and then you'd get your yeah, it's very accurate to what actually happened, which is quite scary considering this was 10 years prior.
yeah. I mean, and the movie sort of, it picks up a quick pace as the bull starts rolling, but in the very beginning, sort of the beginning confusion of like what the heck's going on, right? It sort of starts off as like just blaming the individual. Oh, he was just a
Yeah.
drunk, all this kind of stuff. But then slowly, kind of the conspiracy unravels, and but then it's just sort of that slow rolling of like hysteria really sort of hits home.
Yeah, I really like this, and I really like I can never remember his name, the main guy who was the lead in Santa Clarita Diet, I can never
Oh,
remember
it's
his name.
Timothy Oliphant.
He is, in this movie, fabulous, and also fabulous in Santa Clarita Diet. If you've not seen that, go watch it. It's
Hmm.
criminal they cancelled it, but in this, he's great, and I buy him as the hero effectively.
Yeah.
Um, the the only thing I would say that I struggle with in this is I view this as a zombie movie, even though technically it's not.
It's not.
It hits all the same tropes,
Yeah.
and I quite like that we have a zombie movie that's not a zombie movie. It's
Yeah.
very clever how they've done it.
And it's a rage virus, which I guess is kind, well, not really similar to, because Resident Evil is very much a zombie movie, but it's a virus in the way that this is a virus.
Yeah,
Um, Sort of takes a little bit of everything and mishmashes
yeah.
it in the crazies,
I
right?
mean, you could probably liken this to sort of 28 days later, but in the early stages of the infection, they're still very coherent, and
Yeah.
even when they're fully infected, they understand what they're doing, and I think that adds an extra level of terror to it, that the person who is infected is fully aware and conscious that they are about to shoot you, and they're cool with
Mhm.
it. That's
Oh yeah.
scary.
Adds to the terror, adds to like the heartbreak, especially like the victims. Like I think of I can't think of all the characters' names, but the one that burnt his family.
That
Absolutely wild.
opening scene is amazing. That sort of house on fire and sat there, and when he's whistling, or humming, that
Mhm.
is the tune that was used in the original. So that's a nod
Oh,
back
okay.
to so there's a bit where you've got that tune is kind of prevalent throughout the original, and when he's whistling, that was a
Okay.
okay, that's a really cool way to incorporate that. I
Nice little
liked
wink
that.
and a nod. Yeah.
There's a few of those. You've also got, when he's in the cell later on, written on the
Mhm.
wall behind him is Romero as one of the bits of graffiti, which again I thought
Oh,
was cool.
shoot. That's very
Um,
cool.
but even the original was riddled with nods to other things, and it had like I think there was 2 or maybe even 3 cameos from George Romero in the original. So it's George Romero is one of those. He tends to like just popping up here and there. He was named as a producer on this. I watched
Mhm.
an interview with the director today. The director never met him,
Re
which made me smile. So he was a producer on this in name only.
in name. Yeah, in spirit, although, yeah, but he passed away after this, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, yeah, obviously, if he's producing it. But, yeah, it's just so funny. I guess he was just like, "Yeah, I'll throw either a few bucks," or maybe that was their way of, like, sort of giving him credit for the original without necessarily having him directly involved.
yeah, and also putting George Romero's name on anything. If you're advertising a movie that is produced by George Romero, it brings in an audience that may not have gone to see it otherwise.
Yeah. It brings his, like, prestige with it.
Yeah, I think this movie kill wise is up there with any horror movie. They're so diverse and differing across the
Mhm.
board. You've got everything from people being gunned down to well, as the poster behind us, the pitchfork
The
is
pitchfork is that's a great
right.
suspenseful scene. The pitchfork lead up.
Yeah, it is, and it goes on for quite a while. There's a big point where you're going, oh, that they've not really held back on killing people. Is she actually going to make it? And I
Mhm.
like that, and I like the fact they commit to infecting main cast members.
Yeah.
They added the element of her being pregnant, so instantly the stakes are elevated. You're more concerned about her than you would be if she wasn't pregnant, and it's
Yeah.
great. That adding an element of pregnancy to any horror movie ups the ante. Like, look at things like A Quiet Place.
Mhm.
Had she not been pregnant, no one would have cared when that monster was stalking her in the bathroom.
Oh, but that bathtub births the contraction scene and all that, and the birth, wild. I mean, I think
Yeah,
it does add, it adds the stakes, but it's sort of you, then it gives you scenes like that, where you really build up the suspense. But I also really like, I mean, in addition to the pregnancy, like the dynamic between the sheriff and his wife, the doctor, and then even like the doctor and the, I guess Danielle Pennebeck. I guess she's a nurse,
yeah,
and then she's like the assistant PA. Or I just thought all the characters and the deputy. I feel like that core four, not
yeah.
to use core four from Scream, but those four I
Yeah,
think work so well together.
they really did, and the deputy I particularly like because he's the only one who shows a level of consciousness that pushes him beyond his infection,
Hmm.
and I love the moment where he turns and you kinda go, "Oh, no," because it's when they put the spikes out and they flip over the
And
Secret
you're like, what the
Service.
hell are you doing?
Yeah, and then, like, they're interrogating the Secret Service guy, and the deputy just pops up and just shoots him as, like, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden everything comes sort of clicks and you go, "He's infected. He's gonna kill them." But he's got that level of control that he doesn't, and he saves it till later. But even what he does later is still crazy.
Yeah. Oh man, absolutely. They sort of telegraph that he's going to be infected, but I think in a way where it was pretty good foreshadowing, right? Because I think he taught, there's like that heart to heart they have together about him not wanting to be infected.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, which, again, anything where you set up a character that is like, "I don't want this to happen because it's the worst thing that could happen to me." Whenever you do that in a horror movie, you have to make that happen to that person. You
It's
have
the old,
to.
if you have a gun in the first act, it has to go off in the third act kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I like that. I think I would like to see this remade again now, post-pandemic.
It'd be interesting, like what different dynamics or sort of what other points that they could make. Because have we really had a lot of pandemic films since 2020?
There's been a couple, but they're all a bit, I don't know. Like, there was one recently which was like, I think it was No One Left Alive or No One Left Around or something like that, which dealt with the aftermath
Hmm.
of a pandemic and dealt with kind of some of the lead up to it. But I don't know. A lot of what I've seen post pandemic, they tend to lean away from it as opposed to really lean into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably because as a society, we've lived enough. We don't want to watch it too.
Fair enough, but not to bring up too many different tragedies, but like after 9/11 happened, the movies that came out pretty quickly after that.
Yeah.
Now, pretty shockingly, I was actually very surprised when those came out. But I'm very curious. Yeah, we've been very, hints and nods have occurred. Like I think of like Pearl, like they address like the Spanish flu
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that, and people had masks on. So like, there's been like sort of general references. But it's just I'd be curious like to see like what, yeah, like what points they would make in the Crazies today.
Yeah, and I think they'd make very different points, but they would be very much along the same lines. Like, there's
Hmm.
so much in this that is, had the pandemic gone a different way, I could have seen similar reactions. Like, if the pandemic had been confined to one small town, 100% I could see a military coming in and just wiping everyone out and
Yeah.
That's the problem gone away. And even down to the drop in the bomb, that's been an ongoing thing that's been done in every movie. Even The Simpsons touched on nuking a small town in the Simpsons
Right.
movie. So it's something that I think is believable. Whether a government would actually do it, but it's something that I believe they probably would, with their hands were tied.
Yeah, and I think a Crazies in 2024 would very much also probably touch on like conspiracy theories, would touch on like rage virus denial. Like I could see a lot of different elements and where they can kind of go.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I enjoy about this the most is the dynamic of everyone trying to survive, but no one fully understanding what's going on. Even
Mhm.
down to when you get to sort of closing acts and the bombs coming in and they've jumped in the semi truck and they're driving away. Like they still have no real understanding of exactly what's happening, just that they need to be out.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that confusion. And the thing, how have we even missed the hillbillies at the beginning and the hillbillies coming full circle at the end? They're great.
Oh, right, right. You're talking about at, like the truck stop, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
like at the very beginning, they obviously find the body of the downed soldier in the swamp or the lake or whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it, and that's where the infection comes from. And then the story goes completely away from them. We kind of forget they even exist. And then right at the end, when they're looking for an escape vehicle, they find the pickup, which was the hillbillies pickup from the beginning. And you're like, oh, they're going to get away. And then the hillbillies are back and they're all infected. It's such a good full circle loop. I thought it was so clever to do that.
You know, it's so funny too because I after I rewatched it, I didn't even catch that. So you're like you're pointing that out to me. It didn't even occur to me that those were the same folks.
Yeah, the same guy, same people from the beginning, which I thought
um,
was cool.
yeah, you know, you love a good bookend. And you know what is the truck stop scene in general, though, not to shy away from the bookend itself, but like the set pieces in particular in this film are great. My favorite is actually the car wash. I love the
I
car wash scene.
the car wash is cool and it ends really. I didn't think she was going to die,
Yeah.
and that caught me. First time watch caught me 100% off guard. I was convinced that all of these people were getting out, and the way they kill her's brutal as well. So like they hook her out and she gets caught in one of the hoses and she's
Yeah.
but that didn't kill her instantly. What killed her is the fact that it took them so long to get out of the car and get back to her to get her down. So there's that level of guilt that sits, especially with the other woman. I can't think what her name is, the one who was frantically trying to lift her up,
Yeah.
and that
The
just
doctor, I forgot her name.
adds another dynamic to her character as well because she's. I would say she suffered the most in this movie. She suffered a lot.
Yeah. So, what, the doctor?
Yeah,
Because she like, yeah, there were patients that she cared for that she lost. Um, you know, and then you know, I mean, who else? What else did she sort of? You think also like how much like what happened to her throughout
yeah,
in general?
yeah. Like everything that like she went through. I think she went through more than everybody else. Like everyone else was just kind of going with it, but she kind of, I don't know. I just feel that she suffered the most. She seemed to
Yeah.
be most affected by everything that was happening, and the fact she's heavily pregnant probably didn't
Hmm.
help.
Well, she was held
Uh,
hostage at one point,
yep,
right? Um, and I also loved. I mean, just speaking of the doctor, the dynamic between her and her husband, not just the relationship, but also like I love that we're getting this lens of like tackling this virus and like how a town responds to it from like a law enforcement perspective and then like a medical perspective.
yeah,
And we get that through this, you know, which is which is very interesting. Sort of get like if we're you know if we're taking the sheriff's role sort of like as a government metaphor, a small town government, but you know, especially if we're relating it to the recent pandemic,
yeah.
right? You see very different kind of responses of like law enforcement making wild decisions and like the medical fields saying no, it should be done this way or that way.
Yeah, and he makes some very questionable decisions throughout. Like when he gets the call of the disturbance at the morgue, and he
Hmm.
goes to the morgue. Like that scene with that is it the bone saw where
Yeah.
he kills the Undertaker and the bone saw comes across the floor. That's that's great. That whole set piece is perfectly set up where you see him looking at the bodies and you see like the eyes cut and like it builds tension so well. So when it does that snap and you get that jump scare, it really gets you. But they don't stop it there. They go from a jump scare straight into this intense, it's going to get you moment. And I love the fact it's stopped by the deputy kind of like stopping it, pulling the cord and just pulling the plug and kind of like, are you okay? Like, no, no, I'm really not okay.
They don't overdo the comic relief in the film, but like there's little moments that they sneak
Yeah,
in there like that. That
yeah,
works. But yeah, no, I think this blends, like you said, it really blends like the jump scares with the suspense very well. On top of like the atmosphere, like I was thinking, like there's one shot in particular, going back to the husband that burned his family, when the wife is sort of going out to check on him, and you have like the bright lights coming from the farmhouse equipment.
yeah,
That's a beautiful shot, but really suspenseful. Compounded with the atmosphere from that shot.
yeah. And I like that. The bit I really love in this is the bit where they realize that the government hasn't evacuated anyone like they said they were
Hmm.
going to, and they've
They just
just
did.
taken them all, slaughtered them all.
Hmm.
That to me is the big aha moment where all of a sudden they took the stakes to another level because it's not now a case of finding someone to help them get out. Because if they find someone, they're going to kill them, and that leads to sort of the deputy sacrifice.
Hmm.
And even in that moment where he's walking up going, "Hey, I'm deputy so and so of so and so station. You need to I'm okay. I'm not infected." There was still a small part of me that went, "They're gonna welcome him with open arms. They're gonna, oh, come across," but they don't. They mercilessly destroy him.
Yeah, no one is here to help. I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, like, it's like, who do you trust in those big moments, right? Where, like, it's like the people who you thought can help you just really like are either out to get you or don't know nothing at all. It can kind of go in either direction in these kinds of movies. But right, yeah. I mean, I guess it's sort of like the military. Yeah, they were the big bad, right? They created the virus, and now they want to clean up their mess.
Yeah, and that's a really clever angle to play. And I think if you play that with any kind of horror movie, if you set someone up as the baddie and the whole thing of them is to try and cover up what they've done, whether it's a murderer or like
Hmm.
this, the government, that adds an extra level, especially if that person is the one person you can go to get help. Like, for example, the 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the sheriff is the bad guy.
Hmm.
That's a like once you have that realization of, oh shit, he should be helping them, but actually he's part of it. It makes it so much worse for everyone in that situation. And as a viewer, you're so much more behind them because you're like, there is no one supporting you now. So I am fully behind you. Go, go, go. Run, run, run.
Absolutely hopeless situation. But and then of course we kind of get that this was very. I mean, downer endings are sort of. I remember that there was a whole slew of them around this particular time in horror movies. And I think I remember almost not liking the ending the first time I saw this because I was like, oh, hopeful, and like, okay, no, military still onto them. But I mean, it's very realistic. It's like when something as big as is as big and powerful as like the U.S. Army, like with all the money that they get, like
Yeah.
you're like, okay, yeah, no, that checks.
Yeah. And this still looks good as well. So, like, even like the big nuclear bomb at the end, or if it's, I don't know if
Mhm.
it's a nuke or not, but I'm assuming it's a nuclear bomb with a big mushroom cloud. It still looks good for
That looks great.
2010. And if you compare that to another remake that came out that year, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, that looks trash. And it's how can you have two movies made the same year with a similar budget, one look as good as this and deliver as well as this? and the other one just stumble continuously throughout
Because
the.
I think with the Nightmare remake, they spread the money in terms of the CGI. They used it throughout, so it didn't all look great. Whereas in that was the biggest effect in the movie. So I feel like most of the money went to that, and then everything else was pretty practical.
Yeah, this looks and feels like a movie made in the 80s. That's
Yeah,
kind of how I feel about this. It's got that. It's still got a very gritty feel to it. It doesn't feel like it's a polished up remake. It doesn't feel like they've really gone over the top with a big Hollywood production. It still feels very much like it feels like a George A. Romero movie. It feels like a B-rated horror movie, and that
yeah.
works.
Yeah, but you know what though? I feel like, but it has like a like it feels B, but it's got some like real quality stuff to it though. Not to downplay the whole film, right? I feel like it feels polished, in
Yeah,
some ways.
yeah. It feels polished, but not to the extent where you kind of go, "Ugh, it's just a Hollywood gloss remake of a quite gritty." Because the original is quite a gritty
Yeah.
B movie. The original deals with lots of the political aspects, and you get a lot of scenes of people discussing whether the town should be destroyed. Of course, it should be destroyed. If we don't destroy it, it will get out. There's lots
Hmm.
of that to the original, and there's lots of the originals are very. I think the best word is it's a very dirty movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies that you go, ugh, the government's horrible. Like,
It almost
yeah,
the way you describe it, because I have not seen it, it almost sounds like Romero might have been inspired a little bit of like the original like Gojira movies, like the original Godzilla films, because those were very big picture military, lots of characters making different decisions. Um, you know,
yeah, it's very much got that feel to it, and like all the people in the hazmat suits in the original are very. They look terrible. They look like something out of a trauma movie. They're like the full white jumpsuit with the full face mask. But you get moments with them where they're like sat down and like you can see that even they're really struggling. So they deal with lots of that. Whereas this movie really focused it back in on this is your set cast. This is who you care about. Everyone else around this is just extras.
yeah,
Where the original tried to showcase too much, and because of that, it felt to me anyway, it felt very much like a I don't know, like almost like a political statement. Government are
yeah,
bad, people are good. Whereas this one's more like people are bad, government are bad, but these four people, we like these four people. These four people are good.
right, right. Well, I think any sort of apocalypse kind of film or a zombie, you have to have your characters are the heart of the movie. I mean, they're at risk. You have to care about them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and
um,
that's where most movies that, or especially remakes, that's where most remakes fail. And me and Angel have spoken about this loads of times. If you don't care about the main characters, you may as well not carry on with the movie because what's the point? I don't care if they die.
I know you guys covered Black Christmas recently. Both
Yes.
the remakes, but I'm thinking more specifically the '06 one, and which is interesting because I love the cast, I love the aesthetic of it, but they do that disservice where it's like they're not given as meaty stories as the girls in the original were given,
Yeah.
and that really sort of wipes out the care about them kind of stakes.
Yeah. It went from a this is a girl who's had a traumatic life and this is what she's been through to this is a girl. And all of a sudden you go, oh, okay. Oh, she died. Oh, never mind.
Right.
And this movie done a good job of like I cared about the sheriff, I cared about his wife, I cared about the deputy, I cared about their friend, I cared about that group of people. And I'll be honest, I cared about the hillbillies right at the very beginning because they do a good job of giving you some understanding as to who they are. They're not necessarily nice people,
Hmm.
but I still cared about them because I knew enough about their relationship between each other that they were friends and they had a life and they weren't just generic people who were wiped out for no reason.
Right. There was just a little, even if it was a hint, there was a little bit of a backstory there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all I need, just enough that I go, oh, that's actually a person, as opposed to welcome generic character A. This character will die in 3 minutes, and then you
Mm,
get another one
and that's it.
afterward.
Rinse and repeat. Because this is the first time I'm covering like a remake with you. I guess I can kind of sort of give my general spiel on remakes, just in a sense. Is like I feel like if you can like add layers to a film the way that the Crazies did, then you're justified in doing a remake.
Yeah,
If you fail to at least meet the bare minimum of what the original did, then I don't think you really have ground to stand on.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's finding that happy medium of you need to do enough to appease the people who are here because of the original, but you need to do enough to change it enough that new audiences want to watch it, and you need to find this happy balance. And some of them go beat for beat, let's just copy exactly what the first movie, the original, done, and others go too far the other way and change everything. Whereas this kind of just hit the sweet spot
Yeah.
where it changed enough, and the story's the same, the dynamic is the same, but they just focused it in more on the people and done away with lots of the broader political and broader like generalization of what was going on. A lot of that was just kind of dismissed and left to your own imagination. I love this remake. It's a great remake.
Oh yeah, this will definitely be a sort of return watch for me. For sure. But yeah, do you have any other thoughts on the Crazies?
No, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. That's about where I am.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, if you missed this back in 2010, definitely check it out. I think I actually had to rent it. I don't think it's actively streaming anywhere.
No, I had to rent it as well. I did find out after I'd rented it, there is a free copy on YouTube.
Is there really?
Yeah, I was devastated. So I rented it, finished renting it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go and just see if like I can find like some highlight reels or like just sort of some pinpoints or some discussions over like how Romero was involved or anything like that. I typed in the Crazies 2010. The first video that came up was the full movie. I was like,
I should have just checked YouTube. I you know what I do. I have someone I know that has a Plex account somewhere, and there were things on there. So I did check that. They didn't have it, unfortunately. So, but I'm happy to support this movie anyway. It's worth it.
yeah,
It's worth the rental for real.
yeah, yeah. It's done well. It's had $10 between you and me. So hey, we helped.
There you go. I wonder. Yeah, but how does that break down? Who gets from like a $5 rental? Where who gets the cents? Who gets how do you know? Who gets the
I
pennies?
imagine. I imagine now for a 2010 movie that all goes in the studio's pocket, and they just go, "Great."
Yeah, yeah. Not even the filming studio, right? That's the distributor. Whoever's the
Oh
distributing
yeah,
studio, right? Yeah,
yeah.
not even whoever shot it.
No, it's just whoever's decided they want to stream it is getting. Yeah, and then obviously whatever streaming services is taking their 60% cut.
Yeah, Timothy Olyphant probably gets like a fraction of a fraction of a penny.
A cent. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for checking out another edition of Remakes. Tune in next time. We're going to cover 13 Ghosts.
Yeah, as Angel pre-warned you about my love and admiration for the man who is Matthew Lillard.
Oh, are you a diehard Lillard
Uh,
stan?
Lillard is king. Can do no wrong in my eyes ever.
Oh, you might not like what I have to say.
Damn it.
Well, that's not enough of a stinger and a tease. Tune in next time. We will see you then.
See you later.
And while we still have your attention, be sure to check out the Dewey Pod Monster podcast, available where all podcasts are downloaded. The podcast's all about consumption, beer, music, movies, TV. Nothing is off limits. They're really fun. Go check them out.